September 3, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. At 7 o'clock Pacific Standard, which is about right here, there was the ISM Manufacturing PMI. Didn't really cause a reaction. Overall, the whole day, the market was just kind of selling off. It had one big leg, kind of a consolidation here, then kind of a stepwise sell-off here. Took a total of one trade today, which is right here. It was green. And I saw a few other setups, but even though there was a very distinct sell-off that was happening, I wasn't able to find too many entries. So I'm going to get into my trades and where I saw setups. This is what the pre-market looked like. Essentially, there was a bounce, and then it sold off, consolidated, and on the open, it's just started selling off really, really gradually. Now, even though there was a sell-off here, there was second entries, but it was hard to really know. Well, you knew later that there was a sell-off happening, but I originally started with this green down channel, and the first setup that I saw, I thought it was almost trade. So you have a very, very distinct sell-off happening here, but the second entries are very tight and very short, so it's hard to trust them. Unfortunately, when I drew this green down channel, I originally had it cutting through and actually cutting below. I actually had it a little bit tighter like this. As you can see, this is the line that I originally had, and it kind of cut and touch. I wanted it to touch this one, so it actually had an overshoot here. Now this setup I thought was an almost trade because you have a new low here. First entry short, pull back, second entry short. This is a decent signal bar. It is. At the time, I thought a break of the green down channel, but if I had drawn it this way, which I didn't at the time, then it would have been shown as a rejection off the green channel right here, which would have given you more confidence to go short on. However, even though there's enough room for a scalp, it is, hitting some kind of support. It looks like it's starting to move sideways, and if it was moving sideways, it would appear that this is getting close to the low of the range. So I had to call it a almost trade. And in this case, I wanted a lower high setup to confirm the second entry short. You get a lower high here, but it's bullish. So it's starting to look like it might kind of reverse or go sideways. So unfortunately, there was no trade there for me. Then prices continue moving. You have an overshoot here. At this point, I did play with the idea that maybe this purple down channel was in play. You get a second entry short here, but it's above the EMA. I didn't really like that. If this candle was actually this candle, then I would have liked it a lot better because I'd like it breaking below the EMA and re-entering this previous green down channel. The prices keep moving. So at this point, I'm not sure that this green channel is in play now. It's definitely showing you that the overall bias is a sell-off. I was working more likely with this purple down channel, and it looked like it touched pretty well on the top side. The bottom side, I wasn't trusting too much, so I couldn't really trust it off a bounce because I only have one touch, two touch. You get the third touch here, but that was before I saw this potential setup. So I saw this as a new low. It's a first entry short right here when it breaks, pulls back, creates a second entry short here. This first entry short, second entry short, it also could be seen as a lower high. These two create a lower high and a triple test. So I thought this is actually a possible trade here. And it could be starting to range, so it'd be the top of the range. And I like that it closed below the EMA, which is this guy here. EMA is very, very gradually going down, but it does flatten out. But I thought this might have been a good trade. And my entry, I think, it would have been at the lows of this candle. So the next candle looks like it would have picked me up and very likely given me the scalp. Prices move down, bounces off the bottom of this purple support. I don't see anything particularly great. And then I saw this almost trade. So it's an almost trade because there's some conflicting things that I saw. I saw this yellow up channel going up. It's a break, a clean, decisive break of this purple down channel. And it looks like it's coming back in. So you do have a new high. It's a first entry long, but it makes a matching high. So it kind of resets the count. Depending on how you did it, it could have been first entry long pullback, second entry long, potential second entry long failure. But I saw it more as a lower high Now, the reason I thought it was an almost trade because I'm not sure if there's going to be a potential break and push up, because here it's not clear that it's pushing back in because of this green bar. And the EMA, if you look at the previous price action, anytime the prices broke above the EMA starting from here, it quickly moved right back down and below, and EMA is holding prices down. So it stayed outside for about maybe 2 bars, 3 bars here. This is the first time it's been a decisive well outside the EMA. So it's making me a little hesitant to try to think, is there a trade here? Now, granted, there is a lower high here, but I could see it potentially breaking and then testing the high of this yellow up channel. And for that reason, I had to call it an almost trade. I just had to wait for a failed second entry long, a very decisive one. If I count this as a first entry long, pullback, second entry long, or if you count this as a recount reset, it's only a first entry long. So you would need a second entry long, ideally below the EMA and in it to fail. So definitely, I had to leave that one alone. Prices continue moving. EMA is holding prices down, which is very much just telling you that it's a very bearish day. Be careful going long. Candles get really tight and pretty much congested because you get some dojis everywhere, like doji here, doji here, doji here, doji here. So it's just very, very, well, you had to really fight the FOMO to make sure you don't just jump in on a wild trade. Prices move, and it finally breaks up and out of this purple down channel again. Now, the way it's been moving, it doesn't go back to test the lows. So I'm not really sure if it's going to come back and test the lows of this purple down channel without making at least 2 attempts up before it resumes the downside sell-off. Technically, I have a new low here, say first entry short. And if you did the count reset and you said this is just kind of called the localized global low, you could say it's the first entry short here, second entry short, and the second entry short failure, but this isn't a good signal bar to go failure, to see the failure on. And this is actually where I take my first trade. So in hindsight, it wasn't the best setup. It was a little bit eager, in my opinion. In other words, I kind of jumped in on it without fully seeing it for what it was. I kind of saw it what I thought and I hoped it was, and I actually got a green trade out of it, but I know now from hindsight and also a little inkling at the time that it wasn't the best entry to take. So technically you have a new high here, and then you have a new high here. The way I've drawn it here is I have an orange up channel. It broke, tested the new high. Then I saw as one leg down, pull back, second leg down. Now I wasn't thinking second entry long just yet. So, but I did see a potential triple test, and I was thinking this is sideways consolidation. So what I was thinking at the time was there's this big, big, big sell-off, one push up, consolidation, and a potential second push up before maybe resuming this down channel. Because this down channel, even though it didn't test the low side, it could want to test the lows of this again. But I saw it as break, and in a micro scale, potential break, it already tested the high, one leg down, pull back, second leg down, but it could be starting a resumption of this second leg of this guy. So I was thinking that when this opened, it opened, I was watching carefully. I wasn't usually using the EMA as any kind of indicator right now because it's just flat, but I was thinking I might be at the low of a trading range. And so when this opened, it was dancing around, and I finally decided to enter a little bit in the midlife of this candle, and I just enter at the top. And it just kind of flashed up, and the guy got the fill rather quickly. I was able to drag my stop loss from here to one tick above my entry, and my runner got taken out. So it was a kind of a lucky trade, in my opinion, because it could be seen as made one push up, break, test the new high, one leg down, pull back. Before this candle, it could have easily just kind of went down a second leg about the same size of this one. But the way I saw it when this one was opening, and it was during the life of the candle, I saw there was enough momentum to at least get a 1 point scalp. So that's how come I jumped on it. Price then continue moving. It breaks, comes down on this orange down channel, breaks, tests a new low, but it continues moving down. Technically, I have a hidden second entry short here, so it's a new low. First entry short, pull back, pushes one tick above, engulfs this signal bar. So this is your second entry short that's hidden. But I didn't like it that it was already near the lows or the localized low. So kind of had to leave it alone. Prices then continue chopping. You do have another second entry short here. So say first entry short, pullback, second entry short. But the second entry short in real time, this is your signal bar, and then your trigger bar closes like this. You could have jumped on this, but I didn't like the fact that this is a 4-point bar, so I had to leave it alone. It gets very, very whippy here. I saw another potential setup here, but I thought it was an almost trade. So I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long, this is your signal bar. It's not a good signal bar for second entry long. Second entry long is continuing here, then it pushes up and flashes down. And I call it an almost trade because in any other context, it might be worth taking because it's a very, very strong rejection by the EMA, very, very strong entry by the bears. But I didn't like that this green down channel already broke, tested the low. I also don't like that I'm potentially running into a support area here. So this could be a wider trading range, and this could be nearing the low of the trading range. But I also thought that this is such a strong bar, the way this closed and the strong push toward the end made me think that there was enough momentum for 1 point scalp. But unfortunately, there was, those other ideas, other variables that I couldn't quite reconcile that I thought, well, this isn't a trade worth taking. Looks like it would have worked though. At this point, I did draw this red down channel. It's a new low, first entry short pullback. You have a second entry short here, push up, and then you get a lower high, which I thought was a possible trade because this is a third touch rejection of this red down channel. I like that it confirms a second entry short. Technically from here, you have a first entry short here, second entry short, pull back. I like the one tick up, and not only the one tick up, it engulfs this entire signal bar and closes below the EMA. So I thought this was a possible trade. The thing holding me back was this is also a 4-point candle, so I kind of decided to just leave it alone. It worked out though. Then prices continue moving. It breaks out of the red down channel. It's no clear entries here. There are second entries, but they're not contextually, feel very safe because it's just two side by side. Because if you were to zoom in here, this looks like a very gradual trading range that's just selling off. I didn't see any good clean second entries here. Bounces up. This is kind of what I thought was a hunch trade. In other words, there's no the reasoning behind it isn't strong enough for me to mark it, but I thought at the time, there's a potential short here. Now, again, based off of no clean setup, because technically you do have a new high here. First entry long pullback. You have a second entry long still below the EMA. It closes very bearish. So I was thinking at the time, there's probably some momentum to push this down. But what was stopping me was there's this potential triple test. Triple test, clearly a support here. You do have enough for a scalp, but it'll be just barely. You have to get in quick. And I thought about at the time I was briefly thinking of just jumping on the trade on a whim, but that isn't really following the rules, so I had to let it go. But I marked it because I just felt so strongly that there was a short here. And it looked like it would have worked. Again, in other times, that was just a feeling that very likely could have failed. So it's better that I not take that trade than just jumping on it because I'm sure that would have, reinforced a bad habit. Price then continued chopping sideways. You technically have a triple test here, but this isn't very clean. There's no real clean. I mean, the range itself is only about 3 points, so 2 to 3 points. So it just felt very tight with the candles being so large. then the market continues selling off. Breaks, has a rejection here. Unfortunately, I didn't see a clean second entry. Plus, I'm getting too late in the day. And as you see, this is the last 10 minutes. There's so many bars here as prices are just going wild during the last 10 minutes. So I didn't really try to trade this. I just kind of let this run out and just kind of read some news and, well, didn't really pay too close attention to this final last 10 minutes. So thoughts, excuse me. So I saw the setups today. This trade was, I would say, so-so, the one and only trade that I took. And then there was I think, better trade potentially right here. This lower high was a possible trade and probably maybe worth taking. And I would think this one here is a decent trade because it is having EMA rejection. potential triple test, lower high, or a second entry short. So not too many setups though. And unfortunately, you did have to kind of watch a lot of the market just kind of run away with you without being on the trade. So hopefully that was helpful.